Welcome to the Tech Journal podcast, our companion interview series for the Tech Journal magazine, where business and IT leaders share their knowledge and experiences to help you make better decisions for your business. I'm your host, Jillian Viner. Today, we're talking with Juan Orlandini, Chief Technology Officer of Insight North America and one of Insight's distinguished technologists. Juan is a 30-plus year veteran of the IT industry and has designed, developed enterprise computing storage, data protection, virtualization, and hybrid cloud solutions. He's a trusted advisor to IT teams across a range of industries and is deeply entrenched in the trends and the latest developments from technology companies, large and small. All this to say, if anyone is going to have sage advice about the changes to VMware by Broadcom, it will be Juan Orlandini. During our conversation, Juan gets us caught up on what's going on with VMware, the good, the bad, and the costly. And he also answers the top questions we're hearing from clients and shares his advice to help organizations make smart decisions about their IT environment today and for the long run. Okay, let's dive in. I have this song stuck in my head every time I think about this VMware by Broadcom conversation.
What is it? The Weekend?
Can you guess?
The Weekend?
Which one?
I'm trying to remember the name of it. All right, tell me.
No. It's Should I Stay? Should I stay or should I go? Right?
Oh, that's funny.
How many
That's not what I was
times?
thinking at all.
Do I want to know what you were thinking?
No, probably not.
How many times are you being asked that question these days?
Should I stay or should I go? And it's actually a fairly common conversation.
Yeah.
All right. And the interesting thing about it is the answer is maybe, all right? And maybe to both, right?
Which we'll get into.
The reality of it is that it really depends on how an environment is consuming the VMware technologies.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the net effect of what Broadcom has done, is they bundled all of their amazing capabilities into just a handful of SKUs. But that really implies that if you're not using those amazing technologies, those SKUs are going to be very expensive, right? But if you do end up using that technology, then you're getting a lot of value, because if you had bought all of those components individually, it would have probably been a lot more, right?
We're going to talk a lot more of that in a moment.
Yeah.
So just to start, in May 2022, Broadcom announced that it would acquire virtualization cloud computing software provider VMware. Finally completed that transition about 18 months later. We're talking November 2023. A lot of people are probably familiar with what's going on. They can skip ahead a couple minutes, but just to kind of level set brass tacks, get us quickly caught up on what's happened since that acquisition.
So it's exactly what they said they were going to do, right? Broadcom very deliberately reduced the number of components you could buy from VMware itself, right? So they went from 700 some odd individual SKUs, it might have been more than that, and then different bundles and all that, to literally 4 main bundles with a couple other small add-ons, and that's it. That's all you can buy, all right? The other thing that they redid is the partner program, which affected us and all of the partners in the VMware ecosystem, and collapsed the number of participants in that, intending to bring more value to clients by having partners that have more capabilities. All right. So part of the other thing that they transitioned is away from the perpetual license model to a subscription model, which you have to do the math differently if you do that, as to where and how you're consuming value out of the technology. So those are the major things that they did.
Now, the reactions to all this have been strong.
Yes.
To put one word to it. What are there any misconceptions or exaggerations that you're hearing that you would like to quell?
Biggest thing that I would like to say is that, hey, if you're looking at this from a environment where you were not consuming a lot of the VMware technologies, and now you're looking at SKUs that do include a lot of the VMware technologies inside of them, yeah, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So you got to make sure that you're doing a like for like comparison. All right. If all you had been consuming in the past was just ESXi and maybe vSphere, the basic essentials, yeah, the new bundles are going to be very, very expensive. However, if you start and can consume the rest of the technology stack that's in the different bundles, the math is going to be a lot different. So make sure that you're doing that. The other one is that I keep on running into all the time is customers ask me, what can I jump into next immediately? And the answer is there is no one thing that's just to pick up this and replace it with that. VMware was in a very unique and continues to be in a very unique position in how they approach the technologies that they offer. Um, Moving your workloads from VMware to something else is going to involve significant amount of work. And so make sure that you actually understand what that really means and what that's going to do to your organization, as well as what that's going to do to the people in your organization that are chartered with operationalizing these technologies.
Yeah, you really hit on, I think, the biggest points that we're hearing from folks is that sticker shock over the cost
Yeah.
and maybe a knee-jerk reaction to find something else very quickly to avoid those costs. The saying goes, you get what you pay for. And you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but what do you think is really the value of VMware by Broadcom?
So this is a really good question, and it's actually something that just got reinforced as part of the VMware Explorer that happened a few weeks ago. Um, and that is that if customers really want to operate a private cloud, there's a lot of technologies and substrate components that you really need to have. All right. Most companies that have built a private cloud, and I'm using air quotes here, all right, what they did is they built an automated way of doing IT things. They didn't build a cloud. All right. And by the way, I'm very guilty of this myself. I built some highly automated, really cool looking VMware based private clouds. But what I had really done is made the IT admins, the VMware admins job easier. I had not really built something that was consumable by the end user being the developers or the line of business. All right. And so what happened when I did this? Those end users and lines of businesses went to the public cloud because that's who they target. Right. So if you want to build a private cloud that behaves and operates like a public cloud, you better know how to do that portion of it. And that's what VMware's technologies really enable you to do, right? Is to have that big, in the big sense, a cloud, a private cloud.
Now, there's been a little scrutiny that maybe these moves are to push some businesses out of VMware, that VMware is really meant for larger enterprises and not SMBs. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that that's true. All right. There is a reason that they have the different bundles, all right, that offer you less of their capabilities, all right, at a significantly lower cost, all right. Now, what I think might be happening is that the smaller organizations want the capabilities of those larger bundles, not understanding that you have to spend that kind of money in order to acquire those capabilities, all right. So it's really a sense of, hey, are you really needing the things that you're asking for? Um, and I say this very jokingly. Sometimes people have champagne tastes with beer budgets.
Oh, we know.
Right. So it just I would not interpret that at all as the approach.
Now I like that you reference the champagne budget or champagne budget, champagne taste beer budget. As you've worked with customers and they're, of course, sort of looking deeper at their VMware environment, are you uncovering places where maybe they've been spending champagne and are actually only getting beer? Like, are they getting really what they're paying for from VMware? Is there opportunity to get more from?
Oh, it's actually almost invariably most customers are not consuming all the technologies that they've bought. I don't care whose technology it is. All right, it could be the virtualization, could be databases, could be anything in their CI/CD pipeline. Most people are not deploying the full technology stack and getting all of the value that comes out of it. It's actually one of the reasons that if you look in the security landscape, as an example, when we go in and take a look at customer security posture, it's 37 different products that are layered on top of each other, where you could probably have done this with a smaller set of products if you had enabled all of the capabilities. This is the same thing with VMware. We see that time and time again that customers paid for this amazing thing, and they're using a small sliver of it. Whereas if you had consumed the whole thing, you'd have done better. So almost invariably.
Yeah, we do talk about maximizing technology investments quite a bit.
Yeah.
It seems to be an ongoing challenge, as you said.
It's been there forever.
Now, again, we joke earlier about the question, should I go? Should I stay? You kind of again alluded to this, but when you're looking at the new offerings from VMware and you like, nope, this isn't for us, we need to move off. What are maybe some of the cost considerations to move away? And it's not necessarily the dollars to move away, but what does it take to actually move away from VMware?
So it boils down to dollars, no matter which way you look at it. All right, let's be real. Whether you're looking at people, training, all those things, it ultimately becomes a money equation, right? So that's first and foremost. All right, but there's things that you should probably consider that are on the operational simplicity, adoption, stability, all of these things that have come from having used this technology for a very long time that you're going to have to relearn how to do. Right. As an example, we've spent a lot of time figuring out how to do backups of VMware. All right. There's an amazing technology that's out there that lets you do backup and quick recovery and very fine grained activities that are actually really hard to do with other technology stacks. So that if you move away from VMware and now you replace it with anything else, could be a public cloud, could be one of the VMware competitors that's on premises, that's going to have to be relooked at, and you're probably not going to get the same thing until that technology matures and catches up. So there's a lot of subtleties that come into play.
Are organizations that work with an IT partner better positioned to navigate this than those that work directly with VMware by Broadcom?
Uh, so that's a really interesting question. So VMware or Broadcom has explicitly stated that they're going to work directly with only a very few number of customers. All right, the very largest of the large and globally. They are very explicit in saying, hey, you should probably find a good trusted partner to work with. All right, if you're not one of these very big organizations. All right, so it's not really whether you should or shouldn't. You're going to have to. All right. So the question then becomes is what should you be looking for in a partner? All right, and I'll tell you this is a little bit self-serving. All right, but I'll tell you look for somebody that has actually got a broad breadth of technologies available to them, not just in the sense of reselling. Anybody can sign up to resell stuff, all right? But they have the technologists that actually understand how those play together, how to connect them, how they work, and all that other stuff. And also the business acumen to actually understand how those technologies are going to impact this broader conversation that we've been having. And not all technologists or organizations have those kind of technologists.
When a client does come to you and says, we've been on VMware, not sure how this is going to impact us, what are sort of the first steps that you take them through?
Well, the first thing is let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at what
Pop
you
open
got.
the hood.
Yeah, that's exactly a great analogy. Pop open the hood. Let's see, hey, have you been running this effectively? Let's take a look. Are you buying the right kinds of licensing? Are you doing like for like comparisons? Those very basic things. And then if we go the next level down, is there places where we can start optimizing some of those things to lower some of those costs, optimizing the licensing. There's lots of places where we can do relatively low lift things that might have huge amounts of value. And then beyond that, then you start looking at, hey, all right, maybe it's an alternative, maybe adoption of a broader set of capabilities, maybe it's both, right? Alternative locations. So all of those things become part of the game at that point.
Are you finding examples where these changes and these new bundled offerings are significantly helping some clients?
So, interestingly, not very common, but it does happen. We've run into customers where the new bundling has actually been cheaper for them.
Really? Which
Yes.
is completely contrary to what a lot of the concerns have been.
And the reason it is because they had already bought into the VMware stack, all right, the full VMware stack. So they were using their hyperconverters, they were using their networking, they were using their virtualization, they were using the containerized stuff, they were using all these other things that that are available. And when you look at all of that stuff bundled, but now you look at bundled, it was actually cheaper for them.
Hmm.
All right. I would take that as maybe the North Star if you are going to end up sticking with VMware, right? That you should look at organizations that actually saw the cost reduction as the North Star for how you should operationalize your environment.
Now, it sounds like, generally speaking, cost is the determining factor about whether or not to stay with VMware. And obviously, IT practitioners, developers have a very strong opinion about whether or not to stay or move on. But maybe the people who are actually making the decisions, are more driven by cost. You're smiling at me. So I want to know, speaking from the IT perspective, what do leaders need to understand before they pull the trigger one way or the other?
Well, and this is true of anybody. Now, again, this is one of those things that happens. IT is a very cyclical business, all right? And every technology stack goes through a similar pattern,
Mm.
right? The pattern is they are new, they're exciting, they come on board, there's broad adoption, everybody's on board, and then some major event happens, and then that technology starts to wane or disappears, all right? So, as part of any IT strategy, you should plan for that cycle to happen. I'll give you a couple good examples of where that happened. I grew up as a Sun system administrator, Sun Microsystems. All right, I never would have thought in my wildest dreams that Sun would essentially cease to work as an entity, right? And it's gone for all intents and purposes. But through the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you could bet that I could run any IT shop with Sun stuff. It's gone, right? It's gone. And it happened as a major event that it got bought by Oracle. Oracle decided to invest that technology in a completely different way, and now it's gone. And all of those people that had invested majorly into the Sun ecosystem, now how to move to Linux or to the cloud or to whatever they had decided to do. Mainframe, same thing. Digital equipment, same thing. All right. The list goes on and on and on of these companies that have had these amazing years of massive capabilities, and then you have to have an exit strategy. I'm by no means saying VMware is disappearing, but for some customers, it's going to, all right,
Mm.
because they've made that decision, all right. But as a business leader, you have to understand what that really means, all right. That means there's going to be significant costs on moving and retraining and retooling for all of those things. There is not a one for one, all right. So if the technologists love it and it brings you value, but you don't like the extra that you have to pay for it, maybe you should reconsider maybe that value is worth it, right? If the technologists love it and that extra value is not there, then yeah, maybe your technologists need to go learn something else, right? And as a business leader, you got to figure that out
Really evaluating from both the business costs, future state, training, all of that. I
and
like that.
plan for the future. These things happen in a cycle.
From a macro view of this acquisition, I mean, you just outlined one example, and we know that technology is constantly changing. There's new players all the time. But what does this acquisition, Broadcom taking on VMware, what does that say about the larger technology landscape today and maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Boy, that's a really good question.
Well, thank you. I came up with that all by myself. I'm just kidding.
Well, you're a deep thinker.
We're always asking what's next.
VMware, as it had been operating for a reason, was in a state where it could be acquired. Right, it was owned by Dell, then it got spun off, then somehow it ended up in a state where it could get acquired. Now, it was the largest IT acquisition in history at nearly $70 billion. Right, that's an amazing statistic. Um, so you could interpret that to say, hey, this might have reached the maturity stage and there's something coming in to displace it, right? And it could be that it is the cloud. And right now we're in a state where everybody believes that we're going to be in a hybrid world. I personally believe that, right? But it might be that we end up in an all cloud world. I don't know, all right? The best analogy I have for that is back in the early days of electricity. Um, Most people produced, or most towns produced their own little electricity, and then it became a utility, and that was provided for everybody, right? Actually, rich people produce their own electricity in their homes because there was no utility to buy power from, all right? Computing is maybe achieving that state where computing is becoming a utility and the public clouds are the places that you get it from, and there's no reason for you to run your own power generation, your own compute. I doubt that. There's laws of the land, laws of physics, laws of all sorts of different laws that are going to probably prevent that from happening. Um, I think it was also ripe for acquisition because most people hadn't and have not made that transition to that true private cloud operating model. So if you want to spend some time looking into that, you should go look to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation's definition, CNCF, of what cloud computing is. And if you look very carefully on there, they never talk about where cloud computing happens. They never say that it happens at one of these utility locations like an Amazon or an AWS or a Google. They say it's a way of doing computing. And most private IT organizations don't do that way of computing. And maybe now with some emphasis from Broadcom, maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
I'm sure anybody who's a customer or starting to explore other options is seeing a lot of ads right now for competitors. So that's what I'm seeing is like the competitors are coming out with alternatives. But as you pointed out earlier, there is no one for one.
Not today.
Not today.
All right. So, somewhat cynical view of what's happening right now is that this maybe it might have been a really good shot in the arm for the private IT infrastructure business. VMware had been producing some amazing technologies, but nothing completely revolutionary like what they originally brought to the market for quite some time. All right. Now, and by the way, neither was anybody else because VMware had such a dominant position in the market that there was really very little financial benefit from coming and being truly innovative. There was a couple.
The opposite of what we're seeing with the generative AI race.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you had people like Nutanix that were offering their stuff. You had Red Hat with their stuff, but very little outside of that. Now we're seeing stuff that's just amazing cropping up left and right. And we're going to have this amazing amount of innovation because now there's all of a sudden impetus and reason for people to be buying something else, which is going to be fun. That means that somebody else is going to be funding the development of that something else. There's going to be a lot of private investors, equity people that are going to be funding startups, some of the existing players that might have been smaller, and we're going to be in a fun state from a technologist perspective for the next 3, 5, 10 years because we're going to see a lot of innovation happening.
So let me flip that around back on you. If I decide that moving somewhere is not an option for me, why should I be happy about staying with VMware by Broadcom?
There's a few things that actually make it a happy thing. All right. One is I know it's just going to work.
It's just going to work. That cannot be understated or limited. That's a big piece.
I'm telling you, I know it works.
Yeah.
And if I need talent to help me manage it, I can find talent. And if I need to do most of the things that I need to do, I can get it done. All right. Whereas if I go and explore some of these other alternatives, you either are not going to be able to find the talent or it's just not technically possible. Or if it is possible, it comes with so many warts that it's really difficult or ugly or just something that's not good. With VMware, I know that it's going to work. I just 100% know that it's going to work. And I can run my business and I can move on to focusing on what my business does rather than dealing with that portion of it.
Sure.
Right. So if you're in the business of making burgers, that's what you want to be doing, right? You don't want to be an IT shop, right?
But what does Broadcom bring to that? Why was it significant that Broadcom is now leading the helm of VMware?
I don't know that I have the full answer to that right now, right? What I do like about it, and this is Hawk's doing, is that he is forcing a change of behavior. And I keep on coming back to this cloud operating model, right? He's creating a forcing function that is making people reevaluate how IT is being run and should be run. And I think that's a good thing. All right. So that's me speaking. Is that good for many companies? Yeah, probably in the long run. Probably not in the short run because it's gonna necessitate a significant investment, both in learning and transformation and reevaluation, and maybe a deliberate decision to say, nope, that's not what I want to do, and then move off to something else, right? So, from that perspective, I would say Broadcom is actually doing a good thing, but creating this forcing function.
VMware has been around for a long time, and it's very comfortable in organizations. It's probably more pervasive in organizations today than it has been for many, many years. That might not change, or, IT developers, practitioners are comfortable with it. But when you talk about Broadcom acquired VMware, they made these changes. You mentioned the simplification is a huge piece. They are also bringing support into those.
It's included
It's
as part of the
included as
license.
part of it.
Yep.
What are the other benefits that customers should, be excited about? I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. It's
It
maybe
isn't. It
maybe
isn't.
rough right now, but what should they be excited about with this
Well,
acquisition?
because it's all being bundled together, all right, you are getting actually access to a lot more technology that you weren't paying for in the past,
Hmm.
right? So, Tanzu and the way Tanzu is actually being developed and brought to the market, it's actually a really cool thing. Everybody's looking for an easy button for containers, and by the way, there's no easy button for containers, all
Is there
right?
an easy button for anything in IT?
There's nothing that's an easy button for any of this stuff, all right? But it's an easier button. And the reason it's easier is because VMware and the Tanzu team have really taken on this concept of platform engineering. All right. And in platform engineering, if you're not familiar with it, go to platformeng.org. There's Platform Con. Go, highly recommend that you spend some time doing this. And in fact, if you don't have a platform engineering team, if anything out of this conversation comes out of it, is go make a platform engineering team. All right. And VMware has made platform engineering a first-class concept inside of their offerings. All right, so it's not something that you're bolting onto it. They actually let you build a platform engineering or a platform that's actually a system that's built in the platform engineering concept. All right, that's amazing. I can't tell you how amazing that is. I wouldn't. So I'd be excited about that.
What does that help companies do? What is that solving for?
So when DevOps first came out, everybody thought that this was the most amazing thing because they would typically build a DevOps team out of the 6 to 10 smartest people in their organization. And they say, hey, this DevOps thing might work. Why don't you try it out? Try this on the first product. And guess what? It actually worked. It was amazing. Right. So they, oh boy, I like that. Let's go do that again. So they would stand up their second DevOps team and then their third and 10th and 100th DevOps team. And there was one of the concepts that was built into it, which has been completely misconstrued, all right, is that you want to shift left, all right, so get everything closer to the developer, all right. So you're giving the developer the access to the platforms, to the systems, to the operating, and you're also making them responsible for things like security and backups.
No
And
pressure.
well, it's actually, guess what? Most developers don't want to do that, all right, and in fact, most developers are not good at that. All right. And I don't want them to be. I don't want my developers to actually worry about what an IO is. I don't, or what a TCP/IP stack looks like. I don't need them to know that. I need them to put out features. All right. Product has the requirements, put out features. All right. So the other thing that ended up happening is because you gave the DevOps team so much flexibility, each one of the DevOps teams ended up building their own stack of things. So the first one chose MongoDB as your database layer. Then the next one chose, hey, I like MySQL better. And then the next one chose whatever. I mean, you ended up with all these different stacks of technologies, which became immediate technical debt because nobody else was using them, but this product was doing really good and blah, blah, blah. All right. And so what platform engineering lets you do is build is a highly opinionated, highly effective flywheel of acceleration by telling the developers you focus on the things that are really important, all right? Because the features, bringing out capabilities. We'll worry about the choices that you should roughly stay within. You still have flexibility. I'm not taking anything away, but if you stay within these guidelines, they call it the golden path. If you stay within the golden path, we will give you all the tooling, all the support, all the availability, reliability, all those other things. And companies that have implemented platform engineering have seen a massive increase in velocity, effectiveness, developer happiness, all these great things. All right. And it's a separation of roles and responsibilities. You have the people that put out code, people that operate the platform, and then you have an SRE group that makes sure that you're doing these things uh, under a error budget that makes sense for you. And then you have the FinOps people that make sure that you're not spending money unwisely.
So if I'm going to simplify all of that, VMware is creating a space where you can deploy your platform engineering to accelerate features, production, innovation, all those things that businesses need and want.
Yep,
Perfect
that's
summary.
exactly right. It's built right into the platform, right into the tools. Right, it's that's amazing.
So final thoughts. Again, lots of pros and cons, careful considerations to make as you're evaluating your VMware environment. What's the one thing that you want leaders to keep in mind during this time?
Measure 3 times, cut once. Do not make any rash decisions. All right, I know it's easy to do that, and we've seen some organizations do that, and for somewhat valid reasons, because some of the initial approaches by some of the Broadcom sellers, I won't say the Broadcom organization, some of the Broadcom sellers, all right, were very ham-fisted, and I can see why some customers would have made some knee-jerk reactions. All right. What we are seeing now is that there's more flexibility, a little bit more rational approaches to this. Broadcom's taking a little bit more measured approach to some of the conversations. So measure 3 times, cut once.
Wonderful. Juan, thank you as always for your insights. It's always great to hear from you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you again to Juan Orlandini, Chief Technology Officer of Insight North America and Distinguished Technologist. This conversation was recorded on September 11th, 2024. To find out how Insight can help you navigate your journey with VMware by Broadcom, check out the show notes or visit insight.com.